We're rolling.
Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast.
The Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 65, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Koth.
And I'm Jack Oz.
Here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
So you probably clicked through to this episode because of our clickbait title that we named this one. But in the end, we're really going to be focusing on how far are you willing to go in pursuit of a deal?
Yeah, we found a lot of people give up way too soon. And, the further you have to go to get to a potential seller or, to reach them, or the harder the efforts are to track somebody down, the higher chance that you're going to be the only one talking to them. So there's a lot more opportunity as a result of less competition, right? So as an example of that would be returned mail from your direct mailing. We used to just toss those right in the garbage, right? But now we've decided we're going to skip trace and find out where those people are currently and start calling them, because odds are if our mail is not reaching them, neither is anyone else's. And if you can track them down, odds are we're going to be the only one talking to them, and a lot more opportunity is there. And in our market, which is kind of a smaller market, we need to talk to as many people as we can. So any way to increase the size of our list is a win. So we're going to use kind of one property is a case study that illustrates this point of how far you may have to go to get a property under contract and lock in some profits.
And spoiler alert, the title is true in this one. So let's start with how the motivated seller found us.
Well, it's funny because initially they were not motivated. And another point we'll make during this story is that it's all in the follow-up and just being top of mind when they reach level of sufficient motivation. So we were perplexed as to how this lead found us, because it wasn't in an area that we typically market to. We weren't sending direct mail. And I think we eventually realized it came in through either a Facebook or a Craigslist post when we were looking for distressed properties. Maybe you can talk about those ads a little bit.
Yeah, well, we post on a regular basis on the Facebook marketplaces. And when I say Facebook marketplace, what I've definitely learned there is don't just post in the Facebook marketplace that's proper, and that's the one that's named. Your community is going to have dozens, depending on the size of the community, dozens of these little marketplaces that people have set up on their own.
How many would you say we post to on a weekly basis?
We're up to 24 as of this morning.
Right. So that's any of those buy-sell groups.
Yeah, all these buy-sell groups.
Perfect. Okay. So I think we found that he called us based on that. So it came in, I think he left a voicemail, said this is so-and-so and my property address, and just as part of our regular follow-up, we call people back. And I think I chatted with him first. And since it's out of our area, I wasn't able to really come up with an offer price, even a ballpark on the phone. So I told him that I would have to come out and see the place, because it was on a lake, which around here is kind of a interesting, about an hour, half hour to an hour out of our metro area. There's a lot of lakes in Minnesota, on the Minnesota side. And they can be worth a lot to down to very little. It can be like a trailer house on a little lot all the way up to giant mansions, right? So determining the ARV of something like that was going to be a challenge. So I just kind of left it with, I'm going to need to see the property, and then we can possibly take it from there. It had been in his family since the 70s. He owned it free and clear. So I knew there was potential for some possible, at least the ability to give us a deal. I don't know if there was sufficient motivation there or not. So that's kind of where we left it. And I set an appointment for a couple days later to go view the property. Now, when I got there, it's about an hour drive from where we live. I got there and no one was there, right? So red flag already. His daughter was living in the property. He had moved out and she was kind of habitually late, I think. So I finally eventually got a hold of her. She came to let me in with some excuses and things. And I could tell she wasn't super on board with this process because here's her father potentially selling this property out from under her. And I had no details on if she was paying rent, if she was just living there for free. I didn't really know anything yet. I was just there to assess the property and figure out what we could offer. So I walked through and just kind of made my list of, what it needed for rehab. So I knew at least if we took possession of it, what we were going to have to spend to get it flip ready or rent ready or whatever our exit strategy would be. So I left there and I noticed there was a place for sale pretty much right next door. So when I returned back to town, I called that real estate agent who had that listing and chatted with them and just asked, because they deal in this area all the time. So I said, what do you think this place in question could sell for if we were to purchase it? So he gave me a price. So I knew what our ARV could potentially be. And then we had our rehab numbers. So I walked back to an offer price. So what I did then was talk to the seller, called him back, and made our offer of $61,000, which was, I think he wanted 90 some. So, we were about 30 grand low. And he basically said, that's way too low. Never, we're dead in the water here. And I said, well, no problem. If anything changes, give us a call. We'll put you in our follow-up system. I may reach out later to touch base, see how you're doing. And just so you have it in writing, I'm going to send you a letter of intent, right? So that's kind of one technique we do sometimes is we'll send out a 3-option letter of intent, which gives the 3 different ways we can potentially purchase the property, just so they have something in writing and we stay top of mind. So I sent that out with the offer of $61,000, mailed it to him. And as far as I understood, it was dead. Now, I told you about this, and what were your thoughts at this point?
Well, the big thing is that we were already out of our comfort zone. We don't know that market. We haven't been dealing with lake property. We knew it was going to happen eventually because you can't be in this market and not have something like this get caught in the net eventually. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, there's so many lakes and so many lake properties. I figured we would have to run into it eventually. I think what we did right in this scenario is contact that local realtor right away, happened to have that listing right next door and giving us a comparable, like right off the bat.
Right.
So, and we kind of came in at, you were asking them some pretty good questions. One of the big ones was, what is the fire sale price? We wanted to unload this in a week. What would we have to price it at? We didn't
asking the agent, you mean?
Yeah, we didn't want to have to be sitting on this if we were going to have to flip it in some way.
Yeah, I didn't want to get stuck with this thing. And then importantly, on a lake place, you don't want to hold it over the winter, right? So our exit strategy was going to be clean it up, fix what needed fixing, and throw it on the MLS for a price that it would sell within a week. And that's what I told them. I said, what's it going to take to get this thing out the door? And we were going to just kind of try to make a quick profit. We did not want to get stuck holding it. So anyways, it was pretty much dead in the water. We moved on to other things. And as we always do, we just keep pursuing every opportunity we can. And you just stick them in the follow-up system and wait for that to play out. Well, about probably 3 weeks later, I get kind of a frantic call, and it's a woman. And she says, "This is Floyd's girlfriend. He wants to accept your offer." And I said, "Well, that's interesting. Why isn't he calling?" And she said, "He's in jail." So I said, "Well, that's, I'm going to have to talk to him. First of all, I can't just speak with someone's girlfriend. And we'll have to see if that's something we can work out." And basically he needed the cash to get bailed out of jail was what it turned out to be. So we hung up from that phone call and decided, okay, he's willing to accept our price now, which is great. Now, if we go with cash to this jail and bail him out? What's the risk here? Are we going to ever see this money again? How is this going to play out? So what we decided was, well, first we called the jail to verify the bail. It was $10,000, right? Cash money. You got to show up with cash. And we thought, well, we'll bring the purchase agreements with 2 copies. You can read them over, sign those before we take any action with the money. And so he called me back like a few hours later and from the inside the jail. And, actually was really thankful because he had been in there for like 2 weeks at that point. So he was ready to exit, and motivation level had been achieved. Sufficient motivation had been achieved by being in jail for 3 weeks. All of a sudden our offer wasn't so bad and he was ready to sign. So I had an appointment, other appointments that afternoon. So Jack, you can kind of tell the story about heading down to the jail.
Yeah, that process was interesting. So I drove to this small town, an hour away, like Josh said, had to go to the county jail. Showed up with that paperwork, and I had to talk to the deputies there so that they had an idea of what was going on, because I wasn't going to turn over that type of money without the contracts being signed. Mm-hmm. So they sent it in. It took a while to get it arranged, but they walked in the contracts, and he took his time to read them, which I encouraged. Mm-hmm. So I'd say about 20 minutes later, they came back with the signed documents. And then I went next door to the county clerk, paid the bail, and signed some additional documents stating that the money that we were presenting was, in fact, now belonged to their resident. And
right, because basically what we're saying was, this is your earnest money.
Right.
That's kind of how we structured the deal. Was this $10,000 was earnest money against the $61,000 total purchase price, and he signed documents to that effect. So, and you didn't stick around because it was going to be a while for them to bail to get out of jail. So we never actually met the gentleman yet. You just returned home, and at that point we were thinking, okay, that was a big roll of the dice. What happens if he just flees the country immediately? Right. That money is gone. That's sacrificed. Technically we have a signed contract, but try collecting on someone if they fled the country. So we knew it was a little bit of a gamble, and we thought, well, just one of those things where we're going to look back and this is going to be a good story either way. That was kind of our mantra. So he was out of jail, real happy with things, and we had a signed document with a closing date. So, we submitted everything to the title company and started working towards closing and deciding what our exit was going to be. Worked on getting the drainage field inspected and some other things, got everything in the works. And then like a week later, we get a call from the daughter who's actually living in the property saying, what's it going to take for you guys to walk away? I don't want to move. I'm owed some money. This is kind of my inheritance, that kind of deal. And I said, well, legally, your father is the one who makes those decisions. You have to work out any sort of deal with him. I said, for us, we figure there's probably $25,000 of profit here. So for us to walk away, she basically wanted to pay his bail money, reimburse us for the bail, and then have us walk away. And I said, well, unfortunately, we're missing out on a lot of profit if we do that. So, we figure we're going to make $25,000. We'd have to walk away. It would take $10,000 for us to walk away plus $2,000. We figure it costs us to find every property. So $12,000 on top of the bail money. So she said, okay, if I raise $22,000, you guys will cancel the contract. And they said, yes, but your father will have to sign off on that and be okay with that as well. We can't do that behind his back. That's with all parties knowing what's going on, because our contract is with your father, not you. So that was kind of interesting, because we thought, well, if we can walk away and make a quick $12,000 and never have to take possession of the property, never have to do any rehab, spend any money marketing or doing anything else, that's a win. But I thought, well, what's the odds that's actually going to happen? It's not like she had the money hanging around. She was going to have to raise it or get a loan or something. So we just kind of, again, assumed that was kind of dead in the water and that we were going to have to take possession of the property. And then we were actually down in St. Louis at a real estate event, and she called me and said, all right, my mom got a loan, which is the father's ex-wife. So she got a loan to borrow the money to the daughter to buy us out. And skeptically, I said, okay, well, we'll be back in town tomorrow. Let's meet up. And if in fact you have that cash, and if the gentleman's on board, we'll walk away and we'll sign documents dissolving the contract. So, and this is a week ago. We were supposed to close today, actually. So I chased her for a week, right? And she just kept pushing off, stalling, giving excuses. And, I just figured, well, she's just stalling. She just doesn't want to have to vacate the property. And she's just trying to keep us at bay. Because technically, when we take possession and close on the property, she'd have to vacate that day by the time the funds transfer and the documents are signed. So she was up against that. And all of a sudden, we were preparing to close. And last night, I get a call saying she has the cash. And I was very skeptical. Pretty much thought there was about a 0.1% chance I would actually see it. And I said, well, it's worth a half-hour drive. I'll meet you halfway. And fully assuming to never see her or just have another excuse or whatever. Drove there. And the father showed up at this gas station we met, which is halfway between us. Shows up on his Harley, and we're hanging out. He still likes us, thinks we got him out of jail, so we're all good with him. And he was kind of regaling the story of being in jail and stuff. And we were waiting for the daughter. Never, 15 minutes later, never showed up. So I called her, and apparently she had thought she was going to go pick up the father. So she wasn't trying to stall. So we just had to wait a little bit longer. She showed up and got out of the car, and we're sitting at this table outside this gas station. And I had the paperwork ready to sign. And I said, okay, well, and I saw nothing in her hands. I knew she had to have $22,000 on her. It wasn't evident. And then I said, do you have the cash? And she said, yep, right here, and pulled it out of her bra, one stack out of each cup. Cold, hard hundreds.
Well, it was warm at that point.
Yeah, it was like 90 degrees to us. So she pulled out 2 giant stacks, plopped it down on the table. We signed the documents, and I got the heck out of there. I was just wanting to escape with the cash as quickly as I could. So, the father signed the document saying the contract was dissolved. We received our profit to walk away, and we got out of there with cash money. And, I don't know how many people would have went to those lengths, to make that profit. So that's kind of the lesson here is don't give up. Chase everything down until it's a dead end, right? And then bang on the end of the dead end for a while, because there's opportunities there that a lot of people are not willing to chase down.
This kind of goes back to some of those first lessons we got from the Rich Dad Poor Dad book too.
Or Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yeah,
3 feet from the gold.
Yeah,
don't give up when you're that close.
Right. And then Rich Dad Poor Dad, it talks about being prepared and ready for any opportunity that comes in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people might have even missed it because they may not have even taken that phone call from the jail because that's announced when you're getting that phone call.
Right.
It's a recorded message, and they're recording those conversations. So it might have been, a lot of people would have dropped it from there.
And I think even before the jail part, even came into play, like when just deciding to make an offer on the property, a lot of people don't take it that far. They think, okay, the guy wants 95 or whatever it was. We need to pay 60. I'm not even going to bother because that's too far apart. So there's a lot of points in this timeline where it could have fallen apart, or a lot of people may have stopped. And we just try to run everything down as far as we can, as hard as we can. And it paid off this time. I mean, I'm not going to lie and sit here like it was guaranteed profit. When we withdrew the 10 grand out of the bank and drove to the jail, we knew that there was a risk we'd never see that money again. And never potentially close on the property. We knew it was a risk. So we thought, well, for $10,000, well, we'll throw the gamble up. Well, we made 12,000. So what's that? 102% return.
Yeah. Well, and we saw signs throughout the whole thing where we thought it was going to fall apart. I mean, there was a lot of phone delays. Even every time there was a lull in the phone calls from one day to the next, where it's like, well, that's dead, or well, she's not going to be able to come up with the money, or Floyd, or the father's not interested.
Yep.
But something kept pulling us back. And what I think what we did right in this scenario too is that we were very consistent and clear as to what was going on throughout the process.
Yeah, I mean, I said we need profit. We didn't try to we were very transparent about that. I said we think we're gonna make like 25,000 in profit, so we're gonna need at least half of that to walk away. So that's how we arrived at the 12,000 number.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't hiding that. And she said, oh yeah, that's fair. I mean, she understood. I mean, it's unfortunate that she had to come up with $12,000 just to stay in her house. That's just, basically flushed on the toilet now just to get us to walk away.
I see it as now she's built equity. Because, the father at this point he was complaining that she was living there for free.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And it's not our place to get in the middle of that stuff. I mean, we just pursue opportunities where they are, and we just follow the law, and we're very open and transparent about that. We do this for a living. We feed our kids with this money, so we're not ashamed to make a profit. We can justify that all day long.
Well, in summary, persistence is the key here. Don't stop when your feet from the gold. We took the time to evaluate the property, contact some local people that have that expertise, broadened our team. And I think we would be in a better situation now if another property like this in the Lakes country is presented to us.
Yeah, a lot of that effort wasn't wasted. And, we built some more relationships and learned a lot through the process. And just like we've said from day one, we followed through the steps, even though we thought the chances of anything happening were very slim. We still submitted an offer, even though we were very far apart on price and there wasn't sufficient motivation at the time. But those things can change, right? There's other properties that we have in mind right now that people said they're going to rehab themselves. Well, we think, in 6 months, we're probably going to have a shot at those because that motivation can change. It can increase. Life happens, right? So when the motivation level reaches a sufficient level for them to be willing to sell to you at your price, you want to be top of mind, be there ready to make that deal.
Yeah, I heard that actual phrase not too long ago. Where life is happening, deals are always coming.
Yep.
So I mean, it's a never-ending thing. So keep that in mind. And if you have any questions for us, I'm going to direct you over to our Facebook page and send us a private message. We're happy to try to answer any questions there, or maybe we'll include those questions in the show.
Yep. Email us at info@reiRookies.com. Hit us up on Twitter also at REIRookies. Also, if you'd like to invest with us, hit investwithvpp.com. Check it out. We can use your money to bail someone out of jail next time.
And remember, get off the bench
and get into the game. We'll see you next time.